Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Autopsy with Maddee P. Girl. What is cracking, queen? I am wearing a fantastic shirt today. It's Shrek. And y'all, today I went to the oral surgeon. They're taking out my wisdom teeth. Rude. They know I don't have much wisdom left. Old guy joke. Did that work on y'all? Did y'all like that? Anyways, he was hot as shit. That oral surgeon, I was like, you want to see an oral surgeon? I'm gonna show you an oral surgeon. I'm sorry. He was so hot though. And you know what's funny? I don't want to get my wisdom teeth out because I don't want to quit vaping. I do want to quit vaping deep down, but like I quit drugs and alcohol this year. Okay, I'll get there. And so I'm like, yeah, I'm actually kind of scared that I can't vape anymore. And he would just like looked at me like I was fucking stupid. And he was just like, yeah, like for like 5 days. And I'm like, yeah, that's no big deal. That doesn't affect me for sure. Why would that affect me? So that happened today. Didn't see a wedding ring. I don't really have much warm-ups this week. I said I was going to start giving y'all space facts. So I guess I can give you a space fact. What's a fun one? Ooh, I know some fun space facts. So there's something called Kepler planets. Kepler. Kepler planets. Okay? These are all planets that are super similar to Earth and could possibly house some folks. These are very far away, so we wouldn't know anyways. But if you look them up, they look just like planet Earth. Terrifying. Just horrifying. I'll say that much. It's like giving Pangea, which, okay, I also had another thought. I was thinking about Pangea, the timeline. We're going to kill each other. We can't have Pangea. How do we stop the tectonic plates? We're in danger of each other. Not a good idea to unite. Just saying. So, that's my political stance. Now, actually, I do have something to say. Making sure Shrek is out first, of course. But, so the moon landing. I know. Shut the fuck up. I'm not gonna go over the entirety of the moon landing with you. Yes, some deem it fake, some deem it real. Where's the truth of the matter, right? I always was like, the conspiracy about it was so dumb. And I was like, y'all are reaching so hard for this shit, right? I'm like, we went to the moon. Come on. After all this time, Neil Armstrong, is his name Neil Armstrong? Buzz Aldrin? One of those motherfuckers. Saying they were fake. He's like, I wouldn't know. I didn't go to the moon. Is this Mandela? Honestly, it's kind of Mandela because I would have seen that of all people. Him literally saying it's not real. Someone asked him, I think it was like Saturday Night Live, low-key, or like an audience-based like interview. And someone asked him from the audience is like, well, was it scary? What was the scariest part of your journey? And he goes, well, I'm sure if it actually happened, a lot of it would have been scary. But we didn't go. Bruh, was that information available to me when I was like 16? Because I don't think it was. I thought it was real. Obviously, I still think that we have been to the moon, okay? But they wanted the race war. They wanted the space war. Space war? Space race? Space race. They wanted the space race done. We want to beat them Russians, right? But I'm very hopeful someone went closely following that, right? Like they could fake it, but surely it's like, no, we've got receipts. A few weeks later, here's a rock, Like we got to go get something. Like when you don't do your homework assignment and you get a second to do it, or you don't do your homework assignment and then you're like, fuck. And then you lie and the teacher believes you and you're like, oh, okay, I got to go do that shit right now. I better go do that shit before I get caught up. That's what it's giving. So I don't know. In case you're wondering and you care, you should go look at the Neil Armstrong videos of him coming clean. Can't believe that. Is that Neil Armstrong? But a valuable thing came to play with this as well, because you know those 2 cadets that were stuck in space? If you're not aware, 2 cadets were stuck in space. They're originally supposed to be there a short amount of time. I don't remember how long it was supposed to be. They were there for like 9 months. And somebody was like, if y'all been to the moon, why can't you just go get the people? They didn't. They haven't been to the moon, per se. Maybe, not sure. But that made so much sense to me. Because I'm like, yeah, babe, like it can't be that hard. You do this shit often. Mind you as well, I'm not political, but Biden did keep those people from coming back. Hate Trump, okay? I'll stand on that. I can stand on that much about politics. I don't like Trump. Elon Musk was trying to get clearance, essentially, to send people up to go get these 2 cadets. Biden said, no, babes. No, baby. You're not going. They ended up later going to get him, I believe after the Trump administration was put into office. So bad Trump, boo Trump. But also, like, why did you not just go get them? Those are people up there. They can't walk, bitch. Like, they're like turning into noodles as we speak. Anyways, that's all the warm up I have for you guys. Space, real or cake? Honestly, could be cake. I'm being so serious. It fucks with me so bad because it's just like, what if no one's actually really been like that? Creeps me out. It really creeps me out. Another thing that really creeps me out, every time I look at the sky, in case you're not aware, in space, the planets sit as if it's like fabric, okay? So like black, and then you put a ball on it. Like the Tame Impala cover art or whatever. You know, that one? It's like if you were to put a ball on a sheet, the sheet's gonna like come down with the ball, right? Every time I look up to the sky, I think about that fact. And I'm just like, does it not blow your mind how different like life is on Earth than it is in space, like scientifically speaking? And Ellie has officially gotten used to podcasting. I am so happy. She's such a good girl, such a sweet princess. She's just laying there. She's like, mommy's yapping again. Doesn't even try to call the police on me. Okay. Fun part's kind of over. What did we talk about last week? We talked about obsession. We talked about obsession. Another defect we may share as fellow do-betterers, okay? I wasn't going to do a following week of another defect or another kind of like mental health thing, but I wrote them together, they happened together, and I want to talk about it because big part of my life once again. Okay, another defect. Well, this isn't quite a defect, okay? So today we are going to be talking about that life is real, unfortunately. But we are also going to be talking about some depersonalization, a little bit of derealization, how it's affected me in my life, and how I seek help for that now, okay? But we're going to start with something, you know, I'm sure it's not lost on you folks at home. I'm neurotic. I have a problem grasping reality, being content in reality, and understanding I'm a human on Earth. The things don't click in my brain. I'm an alien or something at heart because it's not working out, clearly. And I know I'm not alone and struggling of coming to grips with reality. So this is for, once again, kind of like last episode, this is for my fellow Delulu queens out there. I love you deeply if you're irrational and neurotic and Delulu, because we're one and the same, queen. We're just alike. And let me tell you, ain't nothing wrong with that life, okay? We just have to learn to work with our brains a little different. That's cool. But also, no one gives a fuck. And we get to be crazy, and you understand where I'm coming from and the absolute beauty that does indeed come from madness, okay? Certain types of madness. Now, this is kind of a strange topic. But I am personally affected deeply by this. And it was one of the things that I had to get over. Okay. So I never liked the concept of money. I never liked the concept of time, of work. Do you see the frown coming over me? I didn't call that. My brain didn't even give a ding. That frown just came because it could smell the responsibility from a mile away, and she's sick. So to me, big floating rock. We are on a big floating rock. What you do and say does not fucking matter. What I do and say does not fucking matter. This was a belief so deep in me, you could not pay me to give a fuck about something at my height of this belief. Again, it is true. A lot of that is true, right? Time is man-made thing, for example. Money, another man-made thing. Money is its whole own beast. But we're here, girls. We're here on Earth, queens. We live here, which it took me a while to understand that. A short 25 years to grip that I am on Earth indeed. And this is how life is. These are very real. Life is very real. Okay? So. And like, I wanted to hold your hand, but I can't, because I need you to see that we can balance our magic and live in reality at the same time. I'm talking about this in a little different way because last week was somewhat of a similar topic. Okay. And you know, that deep rebellion in me will always exist. The rebellion to not do anything I'm supposed to do or anything anyone ever tells me to do. Growing up, I didn't have a problem necessarily with authority. As I've gotten older, I've realized I do have a problem with authority. I just had a Southern mother who wouldn't let me have a problem with authority, okay? Who taught me right. But in reality, I have a big fucking issue with people telling me what to do. Really big issue. Even if this is just society as a whole saying, hey, maybe you should get to work at this time, you know, and make a few bucks. By the way, you have rent. Do you know about that? Also, welcome to Earth. You're 25. And, you know, this was one of the biggest things that when I came to understand that everything is real and that life is real, which I sound crazy, but I know someone gets it. It changed everything for me for a multitude of reasons that we will divulge during this podcast. But I recognized, just like most things, the world was not going to become less real. I had to become more real. Life was not going to stop requesting money of me. Life was not going to stop requesting me to eat and drink water and go places and do things. And I hate that about life. She pissed me off with that shit, for real. Okay? But in turn, I'm able to be happy and healthy because I am an earthling and this is how things work. But I took it as a challenge, you know, kind of like, honestly, if this crazy nutcase creative girl can also come to grips with reality, she's going to be a beast. And she can understand life and play this life game and be her own creative ray of sunshine that doesn't always go by societal norms at the same time. That's a force to be reckoned with. That is a beast. And that is a very well-rounded individual. And I also think that became a goal of mine was to be a well-rounded individual. As I exposed, balance was an issue. And balance is not my forte. And I was not a well-rounded individual. I thought that if I adhere to these life things and to these beliefs, I would be giving in and I would be imprisoned and releasing my magic. I could not be me. I could not have my magic, and I'm going to be imprisoned. Well, kind of I am in prison. That wasn't funny. I'm not in prison. This is kind of a weird way to start and a weird take for this. But I want you to hang with me. Last episode, we learned that I say like a lot when I'm talking about my emotions. And that's okay. Clearly, I have an issue with communicating them. I've expressed that on here. It's been an issue for me. I have an issue if it's not a piece of paper and me talking to myself, getting out my feelings, my issues. I use a lot of likes and a lot of ums, and I can't connect reality to my feelings and saying that to a person, okay? Now, I had to learn as well that the state of the world that I see, that I hate, that I'm afraid of, that I watch ruin people, chew them up and spit them out, like the adulthood episode we talked about. But I had to learn that the state of the world is not the same as the state of my life. And I have very personal relationships and can have very personal and balanced relationships to things that are human, like money and time, without it being infiltrated by the rest of society and what I feel as though to be shitting on me and my choices moving forward. We can have a personal relationship with time. We can have a personal relationship with money that makes sense and is happy and productive for us. And it doesn't feel like the world is caving in on us, or it doesn't feel like we're losing our magic. You know what I'm saying? Because I at least thought, the world is bad. So how can these ideas that it's shooting at me be good? My poor relationship to life caused me to have poor relationships to these individual kind of arms of life, if you will. And, I'll say it. You can't hate the player. You got to hate the game. And I think I understood that. Time and money are players. The game is life. That's why we can say, I hate life, as a joke, as a bad day, as a dramatic thing to say. I'm exaggerative when I say things like that. Like, I hate life. Gotten better at that. But that's why we can kind of say that versus I hate money, I hate time, I hate all these things. Following? And I think this was a big year, obviously, for me learning some big lessons, okay? One of the bigger turning points, and I'm glad I took this early in sobriety, because also a lot of people who are alcoholics and addicts, we don't have a plan for our life. We didn't go to college. We didn't find a career anywhere for us to fit. We're busy getting fucked up and we're in pain elsewhere, somewhere else. Not able to be read on the life game spread. Okay, we're not even a player. And I didn't have, obviously, a future set up for myself, nor do most alcoholics and addicts. And I just want to say it is okay you're starting from ground zero. It's okay you're not sure if you want to go back to school. If you don't, it's okay if you're not sure if this is going to work for you, if that works for you. And it is very overwhelming. So I think it's important to take things step by step when it comes to finances and career and the future when we're getting sober, or maybe even getting out of like facilities or jail or whatever that looks like. And it's very daunting. So I do spend a lot of time applauding you guys on here, but I will applaud you again for getting sober, irregardless, and staying strong as you're getting sober and as you're getting into life and now realizing I'm going to need a car. I'm going to need all this shit to be sober. It's kind of expensive to be sober. You're not stealing anymore. That's another one. Oh my God. Like, not even little things. Like, y'all, I don't take a lighter. Like, no. That store, I'm paying every single damn thing everywhere I go. And it feels really good. And I take care of my belongings now. Transformative piece of my year was coming to grips with these very real ideals. For example, I'm in crippling credit card debt. She is. I had some issues happen in my past that also messed up my credit, but I was too fucked up to kind of care. Okay, this maybe could be off my record, wasn't necessarily my fault, didn't have a lot to do with me, but I didn't care and I was fucked up. So for me, debt, and I'll be real about it. Got some debt, queen, still paying that shit off. My Apple Card calls me like every day because I don't want to pay. Anyways, okay, debt, having no savings acquired, not a dollar. Going paycheck to paycheck at this point. So I'm having to come to grips with the fact that I am going to be continually sent bills and I'm going to continually painfully have to pay for them when I don't want to. And now for the first time, this is where I'm understanding I don't just get to throw my hands up, not pay it, and say money is fake. I'm sober now. I have responsibilities and I want my future to be bright like a shining star, which requires me to have a higher credit score. That is my goal in life recently, and it will be. I'm going to have a great credit score, okay? And in order to obtain all of these things, I have to pay that stupid motherfucker his $300 back for whatever I did in 2019. And I got to pay this motherfucker back another this and that. Now my paycheck's gone and I'm sober and I'm pissed. Okay? And that was the beginning of sobriety when it came to realigning with life and doing those things. And let me just tell you something. You are getting better. Don't be deterred. Don't be deterred by the fact you don't have any money. Be happy that you were able to pay that bill or that you even give a fuck you paid that bill. Because that gave me a lot too. Being able to sit back and being like, I just got rid of my check in like 3 days from what I owe people. And then being like, but I'm slowly climbing out of debt though. And I can't wait to be debt free. So, things are going to work out. And again, time period, situational thing. This is situational. This is a short time period. Another time we can utilize that. We can utilize, I'm going through this period of time with no money and it is what it is. I cannot wait until a year from now when all of this work, all of this money spent is paying off and I get to reap the benefits. Okay? It's a great time to utilize that tool. And in reality, it taught me that my issue with life was never with life. Of course. Once again, the issue is with me. It's a lack of confidence to be a provider. It's a lack of confidence to be an adult. And it's a lack of self-love and only self-judgment. And I claim it's the world bringing me down. It is self bringing me down. Again, I just had to wake up and say, it doesn't matter if I still agree. I'm here. So I don't really get much of a say anymore, which sucks. But I also think some parts of sobriety make it easier. Just being forced to be an adult and just being forced to do that shit and do your responsibility or whatever, it's easier. It's honestly easier. I did not think that would be the case, but it is. And these were very small steps to the direction of me becoming financially stable. It takes a lot of courage, because it's also admitting that you are poor. That's not fun for us. It's really not fun for me. I struggled. I have a weird financial relationship. Gotten a grip on it, but I definitely had a weird financial relationship. So these are just a few, what I did at the very beginning, because it's overwhelming to deal with that, financially. And what I did is I started so very small as to not hopefully overwhelm myself. Because we run when we get overwhelmed. I do when I get overwhelmed. So I got to do these things right. I have to do these recipes right so that all of a sudden I'm not seeing how much I fucking owe on accident on my screen and flipping out. So what I did is I started by just writing down on a piece of paper. This is not a Google spreadsheet. This is not some financial person telling you to do this and that and the other. Very simple. I work better with paper and this shit, okay? So I wrote down all my bills that I owe. All my stuff I owe, okay? And then, some things that I owe people at the bottom. What do I owe? And then check things off as they're paid through the month. I'm not spending much extra money, okay? Because I'm sober. So I'm home, essentially. And I'm eating my food from the grocery store because I didn't like going in public that much, even to the store. And then writing down everything I spent that day. So on a piece of paper, nothing crazy. Okay, this day, it's Monday. I spent $8 to park for work. Okay, it's Tuesday. I spent nothing, queen. It feels so good to write down zero. I even did this in my notes app for a while too. Now, obviously, financials get easier, but we don't need to start with a huge plan unless you have the luxury to do so and you have the brain width to do so. You can start small with just being conscious of our spending and just having a little bit of rain is how we can start with responsibility and start with the realness of life. And being exposed to certain numbers and not being so scared and understanding, oh, this is my life. This is what I owe. No big deal. Everyone does this. It stems from me clutching onto money like this, spending it on what I want. But when it's time to pay stuff, like, and I grew up in a frugal household, so a lot of that lives in me. Okay, I can be really frugal in weird ways that just are etched. A lot of people understand that as well. Now, after I started writing down some of my finance stuff, I started to understand life's real. Money is officially real. My future is real as well. What happens here on out is real. I'm not fucked up. This is like life. This is real, and I get to make with it whatever I want, but in a way that makes sense and in a way that is planned out. And I wrote a 5-year plan. I wrote a 5-year plan and I wrote a 10-year plan. This isn't easy for everyone. I'm a dreamer. I have goals. I will probably make less money. No, I shouldn't say that. Who knows? These are my goals. Okay. Write them on paper. I have not had a day I don't look at those pieces of paper since I started writing those plans. It just gives me a little peace of mind and introduced me a little bit to the realness of life. And like we talked about last episode, starting to blossom into being my own provider and understanding that. And, as I'm starting to understand timelines, I'm starting to understand goals and finances. I've talked about it before, but I'm understanding now, if I'm rational, my life plans, these goals have to be real and in life. I need to bring these dreams and put them on earth because now this is real. And it really helped me in my creative aspect to connect the dots on like procrastination, on sitting on my ass, on being fearful of shooting for my dreams. It really helped with that. And that stemmed from like caring about my finances and caring about little stuff. That's how that was born. And I shared about it because Allie really helped me with bringing my goals and my dreams into tangible life. So I can look around and be like, oh, I've made 13 actual podcast episodes, irregardless who's seen it, irregardless no one watches it doesn't matter. I still made those 13 podcast episodes. I brought that into life. I had planned on making a podcast for so long before everything hit and everything clicked. And me being in reality wasn't just a bad thing. It's not just about money. It's not just about all that shit. Me being in reality means I can bring all this shit to the real world. It's a bonus. And now it's like that in a way is work paying off too, because reality can benefit us as much as we think it's taking away from us. If we understand it, it can benefit us, especially as strong creative minds. Like, especially if you're a creative person that struggles in the way I do. And I've plenty of times illustrated that. Gave me a little freedom in that aspect because I'm understanding. And I don't want to get too far into this because we talked about it last episode. There needs to be a difference in the episodes, but the double-edged sword of living life and of the dreams at the same time, and the unity and peace that comes in life through that. And that's because we recognize life as real. Even though we don't want it to be, even though it hurts, it's fucking real. And we have to recognize it that way in order to get that success, in order to obtain all the shit you want in your sober, happy life or just your happy life. And it just gave me I recognize that me as a person, it gives me a leg up to be rational. And it was crazy, honestly, kind of like mind-blowing, low-key, that after I got sober, I was so fucking rational. Like, I am so rational and in reality and have an understanding of life and my relationship with it, how I fit in, and with people especially. I had no idea I had capabilities to that level. And I am such a realist. I had no idea. It was honestly kind of a relief because I was scared what life was holding for me on the other side of sobriety. I was nervous and like I thought low key there was a chance I could be like a grippy socks patient, like wandering around sober, but like crazy, and to see that the other side is a realistic, strong woman that isn't frayed and crippled, it was very It's a very great thing to see in myself, and it's a really good thing for you to push that for yourself, you know? Damn, that was hard for me to say. And I think it's like being in reality allows us to actually see life so much simpler. I kind of said that. It's like shoe on the other foot. It actually makes it simpler. And to find out, obviously, that I am realistic, it allows me to be so much more gentle with people. And I've recognized within my friends, without like, saying this to them, I've recognized in people that I am very realistic when it comes to things that happen with people, to relationships, to something flying out of somebody's mouth they don't mean, to the person who did the wrong thing, to the person who got hurt, the whole nine. And I can really see things in a well-rounded nature from both sides. Okay. This is from sobriety. This is from me getting help. And I realize that I definitely have a talent in that area. And that comes from me being realistic, and that comes from me understanding that life hurts, and that it hurts for every single person, not just me, not just somebody I love and care about. Every single person deals with some facet of life that hurts the fuck out of them, and in turn causes them to maybe do some bad things or whatever. And I think I can really see situations for what they are actually. And the fact that I can do that, like, and that's an example again of one of my great gifts that comes out of sobriety. And this is why I say to buckle in and wait for your gifts to come and find you. Am I going to be an NBA star because of that? No. Do I get anything from that? No. But can I live in a really peaceful state and actually have people trust me and come to me with their issues because I can tell them unbiased what I think? Yeah, that's really a cool tool to have. And it keeps me relaxed and happy and not so hurt by people who are just trying to live too, And we talked about that in Gal Pals too, but like, I'm not so hurt by these people who are just trying their hardest like I am now. And that comes from seeing life as a whole and being realistic that life is here now with us in this room, and like, I had to overcome a lot of fear to want to see reality, which is weird, but like, I recognized I had an issue with this early on. I recognized I had an issue with balance. And it kept me sober, honestly, because I saw that I was really smart and that some of my gifts in being realistic and some of my gifts in these aspects and the way I see things, I'm smart and I'm capable, and I wouldn't have seen that without sobriety. And to see it to that level so early on, I understand is not the reality for everyone. Again, I was 25 when I got sober. I don't have 15 years of abuse under my belt. I don't have meth under my belt. Things can be easier for me because of my age and because of the fact I wasn't using hard drugs and I got help early. And I thank God that I'm still way even smarter than I was 6 months ago. I'm so glad for that. But, to recognize that, and I just spent 5 minutes giving myself kudos for it, but I want you to see your potential. Because when people say they see potential in you, or if you see it in yourself, it doesn't mean shit. It doesn't mean shit if you have potential. But to be made something out of that potential is like spectacular and mind-blowing. Like, so I just want to show you where I came from and how that was only like 8 months ago. But I had to overcome a lot of fear for that. I had to look myself in the mirror and say, why are you so scared of life? And why do you hate it? And why can you not comprehend that you need to pay bills? What is not clicking with you? And I had to overcome fear. I had to overcome the fact that I'm independent and I have to make that out of myself. Girl bosses aren't born. Girl bosses aren't made through factories. Girl bosses are blossomed from the inside out as you learn who you are and how you take life by the horns. And that's by going after our biggest assets. Our biggest defects. That's by going after the things that are really clouding our life. But self can't see self like I talked about, and that's hard. But reality was one of those for me. And I had to overcome fear. I had to be courageous. I had to be firm. I had to be disciplined. And I had to be strong in my understanding that I am growing and I am learning. And for me to be hard on myself at the same time wasn't realistic, and it couldn't fit in that picture, or I wasn't going to have the courage and the determination and like the resilience to continue to move forward. Because it's scary. Like when you're not that way and when you don't want to be ripped out of mommy's arms, which again, that's the last episode. So next topic. And I have a very, very deep rooted fear of failure. I have grown now. I'm really not scared of it, but that's because I'm doing this. Like podcasting it teaches you a lot, and it makes you like, you ain't hurting a podcaster. Let me just say, like, I will never watch my episodes. Like my skin got really tough when I started podcasting, but I did have a fear of failure, and that's what caused me to procrastinate. That's what I feel like causes a lot of people to procrastinate. Can I talk? Holy shit. Like, am I fucked up right now? Am I drunk and I don't know about it? Caused me to procrastinate. And I had a lot of fear of failure, of failing sobriety, of failing being an adult, of having a meltdown when it's time to pay my bills and things like that. And I was scared what it meant to take on responsibility. And I was scared that I would fail as an adequate adult, which was not the case whatsoever. And we'll talk a lot more in depth on fear, what it looks like, what levels, but getting over the fear of failure. And you know, that's obvious. You can go watch a fucking TED Talk if you want to hear some shit on that. You already know. And it was just like, it was a fear of blending in. Like I said, it was a fear of being a normal lifer. I don't want that. And I'm like selfish. I don't know. Like, we can only have one life, you know, that's why. And I'm not going to keep going in that circle, but that's fucking why. We have one life, and I don't want to be the same as everybody else. And it hurts me to sit at a desk. What's so fucking wrong with that when I get one life and I get to choose how I spend that, you know? Because to me, it was even worse to blend in than it was to fail, low key. And, you know, sometimes I still feel that way. I've gotten grips because I understand now that the important things in our life are like Carmen and which is my friend's baby, and like laughter and, you know, family and things like that. That's what's really important. But, you know, most important, family, life, laughter, death, all of that, all of those things that make us us. And then, you know, our goals, our dreams, those other things in life. And the center to me wasn't enough originally, I think, too. And that's, of course, growing out of adolescence and growing into adulthood. And so I'm sure most people feel that way, but the middle was not enough for me. And I'm like, I don't want to be another Little House on the Prairie. I don't want to be another fucking Debbie at 511 Cohort Street or what the fuck ever, you know, with her kids and her dogs. Like, and it pained me. And I thought that was failure. I thought that settling was failure, which is very true to a lot of extents. But now, you know, you grow and you see the importance of that. And I saw a TikTok too. And this girl said, like, what if your purpose is just to be you? And it let me relax so much. It gave me so much space to relax because it's true. It's like, what if the entire time it was just for you to be exposed and to expose others and like to just simply be alive as yourself, which is really the purpose. And like, I don't know, but it gave me some lightheartedness to kind of a subject like this, where we talk about, I think, our biggest oppressor, financial. At least for me, one of my biggest oppressors is financial and life in general. So like when I say financial, that's probably the wounded finance person, the wounded, like, broke girl in me, but like life as a whole. And, you know, kind of like I said, like being on top of the life game has changed me. It has changed everything about me. I would like, if I had to go back and change anything from early sobriety, it would not be how hard I was on myself in that aspect. Was I too hard on myself? Sure. But in the aspect of, you know, being a player, I'm a player now. I play life's game. And that was obviously a big benefit. And I also think it helped me with, you know, life being real, to understand that life isn't hurting me. I am. Which again kind of goes back to self. But like, life isn't coming for me and trying to kill me personally. This is a game. And I better get up and start getting to work, because I'm getting my ass beat. And that's embarrassing. That's embarrassing to get your ass beat by life and handed to you. And it's not personal. None of it is personal. And like, it kind of felt that way. It was just kind of like, I'm not a player in this game. Every single person is, unfortunately. You have to figure out how you fit in. You have to make money work for you. You have to make time work for you. You have to make all these things work for you because we're here. God, was I repeating myself again? Anyways, it's cheesy, but it's kind of like, you know, the more pain I go through, the more strength I'm going to build, and then hopefully in turn get a higher credit score. Me and this damn credit score. I hate my credit score. You guys would feel so much better if I told you my credit score. I'm not going to because adults watch this. But just know you're not alone. And if I said the number, you'd feel a lot better. You know, and the fact of like, I'm not so special kind of helped with all that. I'm not so special. Life hurts everyone. And I think it was also like, just like how I have to respect myself as a provider, I have to respect myself as a player in the game. That is kind of my tea. Just a little tidbit on, I think I'm still distracted by the oral surgeon. I can feel him and I miss him. But that was just kind of like a little rant on, a little tidbit on life being very real. All of this being very real, unfortunately, but you can mix into that and you can have a personal relationship. It doesn't have to look like everyone else, and it doesn't have to be so gray with a dollar sign on it and ugly and scary. It doesn't have to look that way. Money is a tool we get to utilize to help us in other facets of our life. Yes, does it suck to get rid of your money and give it to people that you don't want to give your money to? Yeah, it sucks. But, you know, eventually money is a tool. Your credit score is a tool. All of these things. This is what makes a bad bitch. A well-rounded individual is a bad bitch and a provider. This is what a bad bitch is. It's not, I think, all the things that we think. It is being an adult. And it is, even if you can't do that naturally, weaseling your way in and finding it, which is what I had to do. And it's not wrong to do that. Like, you can weasel your way in and become a player in the life game. It does not have to occur to you naturally. You can build a bad bitch out of yourself because they don't come from factories and they're not just born that way, except for Beyonce. And Miley Cyrus. Now, we're going to get a little bit into depersonalization, derealization. I have suffered at the hands of derealization, depersonalization on many accounts, most of which blossomed during psychosis. But I do face this naturally. As somebody who's had to teach themselves how to be an adult, how to teach themselves how to deal with life, clearly, you know, being a person sometimes doesn't make sense to me. And the fact that I'm in my own body doesn't make sense to me sometimes. It just happens. So derealization wise, that occurred during drug use only. I haven't really had derealization because I think my brain is structured in this way. I have depersonalization, but I don't have an issue grasping life. I don't have an issue grasping that where I am is very real. Like all of this wall, like all of this is very real. Even during my drug use, I still understood that for the most part. But from drug use, there are times where you don't, because you've harmed your brain. But naturally, I don't think that necessarily occurs to me because it is painfully obvious, actually, that I am on Earth. Painfully obvious to me. So I didn't really struggle much in that front, which kind of makes me happy because maybe it'll keep me from going schizo. And when I do go schizo, or if that ever happens, it'll be like not me not being able to tell someone's face in front of me or something, you know? A little tidbit. But clearly I'm a realist. Let the whole world feel it, let it feel it. And I think that realism comes from pain, to be honest. Like, now that I'm thinking about it, we're kind of like divulging this and talking about it, I low-key feel that way because out of pain, I understand I'm fucking here. You don't got to tell me twice, bitch. If you struggle with that one, I'm sorry. I don't have much to tell you, but get some help. You know, there are plenty of people out there who can help you with that. Just a quick hour a week in a doctor's office can benefit you probably a lot in terms of that. So yeah, but depersonalization wise, it can be represented in a multitude of ways for me. And I think honestly, probably for most people, depersonalization can be you viewing yourself from other people's perspective. I lived my life in this way, which we talked about. I really struggle with self-judgment, really, really deeply rooted in me, really bad. Like observing myself from another person's perspective and picking myself apart, whether that's intellectual, whether that's physical, emotional, sexual, all of it. How my voice sounds, like literally I would re-listen to things like and try to view it as if I'm somebody else. Like I even catch myself doing that with my Instagram posts, right? It's like sometimes, or like my stories or my TikToks, like, but I think that manifests in that way for a lot of people. And, you know, I lived in that state for several years, lived in that, especially when I was an alcoholic or addict. It's just obviously extremely dangerous to live that way. And for perception of self to be so skewed that you like aren't self really at all, it's really dangerous. And I think that's where we talked about a lot of my internal intrusive thoughts coming in and that wall already being down so they can have a playground and I can go ahead and do that thing or act on that because I don't have much of a wall up because I'm not even in there. If you really look closely, you'll see that the eyes are empty. And it's sad because I overthink myself to a place of emptiness in turn. And I'm not sure what that looks like in a medical or mental health standpoint, but I think that's kind of exactly what happened to me. I was thinking and so stuck. We talked about the paralyzed, like me being paralyzed before. And I think that's how that occurred. Now, I had a night. We're going back to Mute Maddie, okay? I had a night in Florida where I took some Molly with my roommates, my boyfriend at the time. Everyone else had a great time. Boyfriend went to sleep. Me and my roommates walked through Orlando to like a lake at like 4:00 in the morning. We walked so far. I don't know. It was fun though. We didn't like nothing bad happened through the night. Like everyone was fine. It was normal. And at this time I considered this like I was in more so recreational phase of drug use. We weren't using a ton. Like this was way more recreational when I lived with them because these are normal people. These aren't drug addicts and alcoholics like myself. So they're very casually just, you know, having some Molly, like no big deal. Take this Molly. We walk. Something stuck in me that day. That whatever was in that Molly, and it was definitely like I have proof that it was me and my brain because other people around me took the same amount, took the Molly, and like were fine, coherent, like everything was fine the next day. It stuck and like did something really, really wrong to my brain. After that day, this is when I started talking about I was essentially mute for a long time after this. That ego death really broke me down. If you're not aware of an ego death, it is just kind of like, this doesn't have to be a substance. For me, it was a substance, but you take something, you know, this is mostly with like acid or shrooms or psychoactives. This usually happens and you're not there. Your ego, it doesn't exist anymore. That drug went in and ripped it out. You're not there. This has happened to me on a few occasions. We can talk about ego deaths if y'all want, because I faced a lot of them. And I think that's why I'm so emotionally capable now and see things so well-rounded is from the abuse and torment that I went through with psychosis and with drugs and with psychoactives and with things like acid and hallucinogens too. It teaches you a lot. And I think that gave me a lot of smarts. And I'm very lucky that I didn't get fried. And I think there's like a pretty thin line with that. Anywho, I got stuck. Probably one of the worst ego deaths I've ever had, which is crazy because it was Molly which is more controllable than a hallucinogen. And it was a small amount. It wasn't anything crazy. Anywho, blah, blah, blah. Stuck. I will never forget the feeling that drug put in my body. It was fine. I didn't speak. I didn't say what I was feeling. It was quiet walk, no big deal. When I got home and that man was asleep and I had to be awake for the remainder of the night alone in that room, questioning everything about my life, it was just like, I will never forget those hours of the night and how I saw myself in the mirror and like how I felt. And it stuck. It was so painful. It stuck with me for months, nearly a year following. And I continued my drug use. And you know what? The next day, one of the girls I lived with said to me, because I was in the car with them and I was just like, y'all went back to bed. Like y'all were fine. I just want you to know, like I low-key want a KMS. Like I'm really not doing well. And one of the girls was like, they were very kind about it and stuff. And one of the girls was like, well, Molly's like, it's pretty dangerous. Like, it's not for everyone. Like, kind of insinuating maybe we shouldn't take Molly anymore, in a way. And I'm like, this should have been a telltale sign, because I didn't say anything, but I was just like, what did Molly do? Why are you blaming her? She didn't do anything wrong. How dare you talk about Molly like that? So, yeah. Part of that still exists in me. I didn't quit drugs after that, obviously, clearly. I didn't even quit them for like a week, To me, I was so crazy and lost in this drug world that it was giving me strength. And I had learned a great, valuable life lesson, is what I thought. Life is teaching me these valuable lessons right now, and that's what's happening. It was psychosis. That was not what was happening. I indeed needed mental health. And like I said, part of that lives in me forever. But what I mean by that is, yes, the pain, yes, all of that, but the schizo, like the mute girl that can just fly out of nowhere. And you see my personality. Like, I don't know, that's what makes me wonder sometimes if I don't have like a personality issue of some kind. I don't know. And I look back at that. What would I have done differently? What would a normal person do if this was occurring to them at that time? Easy. They'd probably, not go into that room alone to be tormented by their own brain for hours on end. They would probably reach out to somebody or go across the hall to those girls who care and do love me and stuff and say, hey, what the fuck? I'm losing it. I can't be alone. I don't want to be alone. That is what I would have done. And what I should have done is most people would not let themselves be alone in a moment like that. And I'm sure a lot of people understand where I'm coming from on being alone in that. And, honestly, I'll go ahead and say it. I never understood the philosophy of, like, you can't be alone, or you're too sad, or this has happened, you need to be alone. I didn't understand that. I'm like, fucking why? Like, what is y'all's big to do? Even when Allie died, especially actually when Allie died, people were like, you shouldn't be alone. I don't want you to be alone. And I'm like, will y'all get a grip? Like, this happened to me. Like, I want to be alone. Like, I need to be. Thank you. Like, please. And I never understood that, like, at all, to any extent. I wholeheartedly, as a sad person, like chemically low-key, naturally occurring, I am alone. I want to be completely alone in my sadness and what is happening to me. That's how I function. That's what I want in my heart of hearts. I don't want you to see me that way. And if you're there, it's going to be harder for me to let all this down and be honest with myself, okay? But that's not good. Just because I don't stand by that doesn't mean it's not. Like, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, like, it's not a good thing, okay, to be independent in terms of your sadness, because it's not real. I tricked myself too. You are burning yourself to the ground, and self can't see self. You are not there for yourself in the way that you think you are. You need a mediator, you need unbiased opinion, and you need someone there to make sure you're safe and you're not alone. So you aren't going, it's just like the quote I said, don't go up there alone. Going into those deep parts of yourself. And this is something I'm having to learn now, currently. Same with like the obsession of mania. I'm currently learning these things about myself at this time. And sometimes when things happen to me, or I'm having a hard day, or sorry, there's people cutting grass again. I don't even know how our grass grows so fast, but yeah, when these sad emotions in my life hit and I'm having a really hard time, mostly this occurs kind of when I think of Allie or certain parts of my past, okay, that still come back and they bring me harm and they torment me sometimes. I can't do that alone anymore. I don't have the bandwidth because I have been hurting myself in that way for so long. And really, I was leaving her abandoned purposefully, and she was screaming for help and for somebody to come just brush her back, just to, sing her a song. That was Hunger Games coded, okay? But you get what I'm saying. I just pictured Prim in that moment. That's why I did that. And the stroking gesture I did. That's why. But yeah. And let me tell you something. The opposite of addiction is connection. You probably already know this. I've talked about it, even if, you probably know about this. And this is very, very true within myself. Very, like, I wish it wasn't true. Like, I wish I hadn't done myself that injustice. But it always ends, once again, another thing, we're to the pit of it, and it's me. It's because I don't want people to see me that way. It's because you know what I think it is? I think people think they understand when they don't. And that is what bothers me. And I don't want to come clean or talk about whatever to somebody that I don't think gets it. Which isn't fair. And that's not how life works. That's not how advice works. That's not how helping each other works. And I've done myself a great injustice for many years, standing by the fact that I can go through my pain alone, and I would choose that. I'm now learning I don't get to be that way anymore. And I want my friends to trust me. I want to come clean, and I can't be alone. It really fucks me up during those detrimental moments. So that's a lesson I've learned, and I hope you learned that from my psychosis. And I think the interesting part about depersonalization is that you can be empty and broken and selfish at the very same time. You can be so insecure and selfish in the exact same sentence. I was hurting literally everyone in turn of my brokenness. And I was selfish, really selfish, because I was 100% only in my world. I was not in everyone else's world. I was living in my world as my critic, as my biggest hater, as my critic, because I wasn't there. I was experiencing depersonalization. Depersonalization, by the way, is not just like it's not like a, what is the word? Diagnosis necessarily. It's a symptom that can occur from many things. So, this isn't like a self-diagnosis thing. It's a symptom of my psychosis and as well my mental health not being checked up, and, not having a grip on that. But, I realized how selfish I was in trying to protect myself because I didn't understand, and I can't blame myself for that. When I did start to see kind of the depersonalization and the fact I wasn't there, and how much it had ruined point blank my relationships with people and my time spent with people, it made me want to get better from it. And sometimes when we get better, it's for others. I don't say anything wrong with that. Yes, at the base, you'll see it ends up being for self, because for others, it has to be self. There is no other way. For true peace and for true healing, that's how it works. But this was one of the circumstances it definitely took me hurting other people to see my own pain and to call myself on my shit, because I was so broken and all this shit. I can still be a piece of shit at the same time. It is a drug battle. Depersonalization is a drug battle that I greatly, greatly lost. This is where my brain is still scarred and chunks of me are missing from depersonalization, from psychosis, and from drug and alcohol abuse. I have to understand growing that it's going to be like that for a long time. And the games that I played with myself, I don't want to play anymore, but they're still happening inside of me. These are things I'm going to have to deal with while growing out of depersonalization, while growing out of alcohol and drug abuse and pain. It's not going to be easy, and it's going to take a while, and I am still going to critique myself time and time again. And that's why it's progress, not perfection. That's why it's little things at a time that one day make a great mountain. But that's why I'm not scared to admit that part of that will always exist in me. And it's okay that I carry my pain around from that, because now I must be perfect all the time. No, I'm kidding. But it's okay I carry my pain from that. It makes me very unique. And I wouldn't, like I said, maybe have some of this smarts if I didn't have some of the pain with it. Everything is a learning lesson. I'm so cheesy, but like, this is actually, like, you guys, I'm not lying to you. This is actually how I view life. I sound so cheesy, like, and I am reading off something, but that's just to keep me and my ADHD ass, whatever, in check. I do feel this way, and like, I come off cheesy, but it is the truth. And I think it also boiled down, that story with Molly is one of probably like 100, I'm not kidding, of painful ego death nights of the sheer pain of drugs. That is one example of many. And I stayed alone multiple accounts when I shouldn't have. I won't go into it again, but I did all that. And I did a lot on my own accord. And I did not seek 1 ounce of help. Not even one. I don't know. When you lose yourself that much, it's like you don't recognize, it's hard. We need someone to startle us and jump us out of our bones to be like, oh shit, what the fuck? And like, at that age, I didn't know what help kind of looked like. Obviously, we talked about that. But anyways, what do I wish I did? I wish I sought help I'm not even talking about the drug and alcohol abuse. That's a whole different version of seek help. Seek help for my mental incompetence and for whatever is going on. I should have been medicated. I was going through psychosis just into life. And I think that's another underlying issue that I'm connecting dots on that I struggle with. Like, when I first got sober, I didn't seek help. I just did life. Like, when Allie died, I just did life. Like, when all of these things, after I have a horrible ego death and I'm fucked and I can barely walk to the bath to get ready for work, and I'm like walking around work like this, like, that's sad, honestly, like, really sad. And I really terrorized myself, and I didn't know where I was, and I didn't know who I was. And to be mute for nearly an entire year, that's where that shit can lead you. And I'm not even talking about the drugs and alcohol. That's where leaving your brain abandoned and not caring about your mental health can take you. You don't want to be me. You don't want to be mute, and you don't want to be scared of your environment and of others and even of yourself. It created multiple beings out of me, and that's beautiful, but one of them is stuck there. And that hurts me to this day. I have to pull her back in and remind her who the fuck we are now. That's not easy. And that's not something I want you to go through. But if you keep your mental health in check, that is most important. The help with addiction, the help with whatever issue, habit you have, whatever you think you're facing will follow. But if you don't have a mental that's there to even cognitively understand that shit and come to grips with what really needs to be fixed, you don't have any basis. You don't have anywhere to start. And I just don't want what happened to me to happen to anybody else, because it's crazy. I want every alcoholic, every addict, everyone who has self-destructive tendencies to listen to you when I tell you that it doesn't matter if you are at the hands of your own pain. It doesn't matter that all of this shit was caused by you. It doesn't matter who the abuser is. The pain is still the same. And I wish I had understood that sooner, because I am my own abuser. I was in an abusive relationship genuinely with myself, 100%, genuinely. And in turn, it kept me from healing because I did that to myself. I made those mistakes. So what? It doesn't matter who hurt me, when, what hurt me. I am hurt and I am in great pain. And it's okay that it was self. It's okay. We all have different things that are wrong. For me, I'm self-destructive. I have to work with that, not against that. And I wish that I would have known it isn't me. It isn't, or I wish I had known it's okay to seek help, even if I'm my own abuser. And, I deserve friendship. I deserve healing still. I deserve to cry. I deserve to sit in pain. I deserve all of that. Regardless what caused that to me, I feel it. And I deserve that. Myself deserves that. And to be upset out loud about it. We don't have control over what does our hurting. It does our hurting. Where that comes from and what that looks like doesn't matter. And one of the biggest things I learned, obviously, now is a great asset of mine, is asking for help. I didn't even know what that meant. Like, I think when people say that, they don't understand that people aren't, getting that, but to ask genuinely for help is the greatest asset you can give yourself. I painfully ask for help sometimes. I don't want to ask for help sometimes, but I have to. This makes life so much easier. If I would have stopped and asked for help where I need it from the jump, this would have been a completely different circumstance. But that's okay. I'm here, I'm growing, I've gained a lot from it. Clearly, the dissected girls in me are not lost. But to learn to ask for help and to learn that when you're slipping, you don't have to know what's wrong. You don't have to find the bottom of all this. It doesn't work for self to see self. You don't have to do all of that. You can simply say, I need help. I don't know what the fuck is going on. I don't even know what to do. I just need help. I don't get it. I'm struggling. And it's okay to ask for help a lot. And it's okay to ask for help from different directions. And now when I feel myself slipping, I have to. And this is a great asset. And I think it really helps with the well-roundedness of life, because you have to have respect for yourself to ask for help, low-key. You have to have the balls and the courage and the respect. And I think that's where a lot of people lack when we're hurt like that. I know I lacked at the beginning. I'm not going to ask for help. You know what I mean? And when you are gaining all of those things, you understand that asking for help is actually strength. It's a huge attribute. That's a representation of a courageous and a strong person that respects themselves. And now that you do, asking for help is no big deal, because you're strong and you're capable and you've already troubleshot or tried whatever. It didn't work for you. And you need other hands coming in to help with that solution. You will grow into that. If you were like me and that sounds extremely daunting, it will all kind of make sense. And the relationship with help, just kind of like with money and other life things, the relationship with that will start to kind of make sense to you. It took a while for me, because what the fuck, girl? I don't know. And I think asking for help was just the key to mental health for me now. And the fact that I can't be alone, and I have to divulge these great emotions and go through these things in a very kind of a professional sense, honestly, is how I go about some of that mental health, is because it's just there's a reason there's steps for it. And now I'm learning that there's a reason that doctors ask you certain questions and they do certain things with you. Anyways, that sounded weird. Was that it? Okay. Well, depersonalization, the opposite is connection. That's what you need in those circumstances. Okay. When you're having a hard time recognizing reality, recognizing yourself, you cannot be alone. Okay. You don't have to be fucked up for this to occur. You can be a sober person for any of these things to occur. But I want to implore you, and I want you to understand that asking for help is strong, and understanding yourself and your defects as well as your assets, your pros and your cons are how we get better. So, don't do a bunch of Molly. And I'm sorry for anyone that doesn't deal with these weird, crippling things I do. But honestly, these defect episodes have kind of been fun to I feel like I learned some things today sitting here and divulging my brain and the aspects of life that work with me and against me. I learn, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. I'm going to have I'm going to go do some journaling. Okay. Well, I hope you guys learned something. Don't let yourself be alone. Ask for help. And reality is very real. You can be a bad bitch. You can have financial independence. You can be the provider in your life. Okay? And you can get well. Okay. Well, I love you guys. Have a great week. I'll see you next week. Bye.